Welcome back to Brands Hatch for the second and final race this weekend for the 2023 MSVR Focus Cup Championship. We had a race earlier on today. That race was secured by just less than half a second in the end by the number 10 car in the hands of Jonathan Baker from Lewis Clark. But Ian Mitchell was third, and all three of those cars were only separated by 0.7 of a second at the end of the race. Now, the way it works for the Focus Cup is you set your qualifying time, and that gives you the grid for the first race of the weekend. But what they do is for race 2 of the weekend, grid positions are reversed on the grid in blocks of 6 as per the finishing positions from race 1. So in other words, finishing positions from 1 to 6 are reversed, from 7 to 12 are reversed, from 13 to 18 are reversed, and from 19 to 24 reversed on the grid. And even if the lowest block has less than 6 competitors, then it just means the whole of that block gets reversed as well. So it really does offer up some good racing and a different way of doing things. The cars are already heading off onto a formation lap, and it will be Simon Watts that will start this one from pole position. So we'll have to see how he will get on this time through, having finished in the race earlier on in that 6th place. So let's just guide you through the grid then for this second Focus Cup race. Pole position goes the way of Simon Watts, and it's Nicole Drought, the Irish lady, that's there in 2nd place. Simon Wall lines up on row number 2 with Ian Mitchell sitting alongside. And on to the 3rd row of the grid. On the inside of the 3rd row, it's Lewis Clark and the race 1 winner, John Baker. Row 4 of the grid is Ian Graham, and alongside he's got Rob Stark, with row 5 being comprised on the inside by Luke Scrubby, who came off the back of the grid and had a good result in the race earlier on. Alongside him is Gary Mitchell. Mark McCann is there on the inside of row number 6 with Greg Saunders for company, and row 7 is comprised by Sarah Hall on the inside. Abby Eaton is to her side, and then the final row of the grid, it's Sean Reynolds, who had an off and into the barriers in the race earlier on. Hopefully the car has been repaired, and indeed I can see that it has been repaired. And at the back of the grid is Simon Walton, who is very much the man behind the championship. So that's the order in which they line up. Now, Simon Walton's car that was originally allocated to him was driven in race number 1 by Lewis Clark. So what I probably need to do now is just have a quick look at what number Lewis Clark is running, if the cameraman can show us a picture of the car. There is, well, that's Simon Walton at the back. So it's the car that would be 5th on the grid, because I think its car colour will have changed from the race earlier on. So as they come down towards, there's Simon Watts. There's the next car. And that car now is number 17. It was number 9 earlier. Right, okay. They do keep you on your toes. And no longer is it white with orange, red and blue. It's now silver and blue, which was the colour I was originally expecting Lewis Clark to have. And the car that he took to 2nd place in the race earlier on is now in the hands of Simon Walton, who's off the back of the grid. Right, okay. Thanks for doing that. Our cameraman there and the producer and director for sorting that one out for me. Oh, camera lady, right, okay, camera lady, I hear in my ear. So, yeah, I thought the colour would have changed, because as soon as I saw Simon Walton's car off the back of the grid, I thought, well, hang on a minute, that's the car that Lewis Clark drove in race 1. So, yeah, we've sorted that one out, so at least then when we see the colours of the car, we're not too confused. So it's largely white and orange for Simon Watts on pole position. It's sort of black and red and white for Nicole Drought that sits alongside on row number 1. Row 2 of the grid, it's green and orange for Simon Ward, the newly liveried car for this weekend, alongside the Powerflex car, so it's black with yellow and purple of Ian Mitchell. And row 3 of the grid, it's sort of silver and blue for Lewis Clark in this race, alongside the all-blue car of Jonathan Baker. They give you the colours on the first few rows of the grid. Now, difficulty is the pictures I'm now receiving, the sun is bouncing off the screen, so I just need to fiddle with a few things in the commentary box to allow me to actually see what's going on. And this will be the final race for the Focus Cup. And then they get a bit of a break, really, because, yes, it's the 29th of April, but they don't do anything in May. It's early June before they're back out on track on the 3rd and 4th of June at Snetterton, where they've got their next batch of races. Then they'll move on to Alton Park in the International Circuit on the 1st of July as part of the Supercar Pageant weekend. And then the final race is back here at Brands, but you're on the Indy Circuit when they come back on the 16th and 17th of September. So it's only 5 weekends of racing. As we say, for most of them, it means that it's all done and dusted on a single day as well, I think. So it's, you know, if you're a busy person but want to go motor racing, 2 races on a single day, not a bad way to do it. So at least that way you can either spend a bit of time back at home, or you've got a very busy business and you can still work, you know, the 6 days a week, but get your time off and enjoy your weekend by racing 1 day a week. So 15 minutes on the clock. The grid was about to be fully formed, but there's a problem there by the look of things for one of the cars, and that is Nicole Drought, who is being pushed off the grid. So, delayed start, and that car being pushed out of harm's way. You can see the fluid that's coming off the car as well. You can see the line of whatever it is. Now, could be coolant, could be diesel, of course, in the case of these cars, but the marshals very quickly picked it up. Now, oh, crumbs, yeah, that's going to be a delayed start because we've got, I would suggest that's probably diesel then. And the difficult thing with diesel, it's very slippy and it takes a long time to evaporate. So if it's not diesel, it'll be oil because it's quite a spread. And that is coming up towards Clearways Corner where the marshals are treating that. So that's just as the Grand Prix circuit rejoins the Indy circuit. Now, you can see that they are walking towards our cameras, but you can still see that line going in the opposite direction. Now, how far around the track that has been spread, I simply don't know. And if you look at where that big patch is, that's towards the tail end of where the car would be. So that's through Dingle Dell where we can also see that line. So I think where the car was, with the car having pulled up onto its mark as good as, I wonder whether that's coming out the front of the car or the back of the car. Really don't know. That's on the exit of Westfield heading down in towards Dingle Dell where it's also dropped fluid. So we're going to have a bit of a delayed start here, I'm afraid, whilst the marshals deal with this sweeping up. And as ever, working hard to soak it up. What they put down is, it's not cement. We call it cement dust, but it's not. It's a powdered solution. It can be various things depending on the circuit that you're at and the surface of that circuit. But in the dry conditions, you put that down and the granules soak up whatever's been put down. Sometimes it's coolant, sometimes it's oil, could be diesel in the case of this one. And that sort of soaks up the deposits that are causing the change of racing circuit to, in other words, from a grippy circuit to a greasy and horrible circuit. So then what they'll do is they'll brush that off. So you brush off any residue then as well, and that takes a while. And even when they brush it off, when the cars go over it, you'll still see clouds of residual dust going into the sky as well. You can do that when it's dry. When it's wet and you get things put down like oil or coolant or diesel, you can't do that because it just won't work on the surface if the surface is wet. So what you then end up having to do is taking even longer to put chemical down and allow that chemical solution to do the work. But our marshals will be working tirelessly hard to make that happen and get the circuit back into a racing condition as soon as possible. And try not to get splinters in their fingers off the broom by the look of things as well. So it's just going to take a while for that to happen. In terms of the championship, well, the way it works, as I mentioned earlier on, 30 points for a race win, 26 for second, 24 for third, and then it goes 21. And after that, then it descends by a single point all the way down to 1 point for 24th position. Drivers who don't finish also get a championship point. There are 5 extra championship points for the fastest lap in any one race, and also for qualifying it's the same number of points as the race as well, as I mentioned in race number 1. So if you qualify on pole for race 1, it's 30 points. Qualification is the only thing that counts. It's not as though if you qualify on pole for race 2 through the reverse grid and the race 1 results you get the extra points. It's only for the first race, that if you've qualified on pole 30, 26, 23, 21 and so on, it diminishes thereafter. Coming into this weekend, Andy Godfrey was leading the championship, but he's not present this weekend. So a quick tot up on the points with what happened in race number 1, it would mean that Ian Mitchell is leading the championship coming into this particular race because he qualified well earlier on this morning to put the car 4th on the grid. So that would net him an extra 21 championship points, and he finished 3rd in the race, which would net him an extra 23 championship points, but he also set the fastest lap, so you can add another one to that, 24. So if I've got the math right already, and I fully accept that maths were never my strong point, that he should be, subject to official confirmation, the championship leader coming into this race. So we'll have to wait and see what happens, of course, with that one. Lewis Clark won't be far away, though, as well, because Lewis Clark managed a 4th and a 5th at Brands Hatch and set the fastest lap. He qualified well earlier on this morning, qualifying in 2nd place, but also picked up 2nd place on the road as well earlier on. So he is going to be not that far away from Ian Mitchell in the championship, albeit he was 13 points adrift of him coming into this weekend. So he will be playing catch-up to a degree. But it's still early stages in the championship, because say they've got 2 more races to come at Snetterton over the weekend of the 3rd/4th of June. Another couple of races to come at Oulton Park on the 1st of July, and then we go to the Brands Hatch Indy Circuit for another couple of races on the 16th/17th of September, depending on which day the cars are out, because the timetables haven't been confirmed as yet. And every round counts as well. You cannot drop any scores in this championship. So the way that it works is that every single championship point is vital. All points scored from all qualifying, racing and fastest laps will count towards the championship. There are no dropped scores, is the official wording on the regulations. So there's a stricken car that's just been pushed off the grid of Nicole Drought. Such a shame for her. She's done a lot of racing over in Ireland, but hasn't done a great deal elsewhere. But it's good to see her on the grid for this one, and hopefully we might see Nicole back out for some further racing later on over the course of the season. Piers Pryor joins me in the commentary box. Piers, delayed start, frustrating for everybody, but when you've got fluid around the circuit, there's not a great deal that you can do.
No, especially when it's on the grid. You don't want anyone to be unfairly hampered with a poor start. So the marshals, you can see, doing a good job picking up all of that fluid on the start-finish straight. Do we know where it came from?
It came from Nicole Drought's car. Now, whether it was oil, lubricant, coolant or diesel, I simply don't know.
I heard that actually as I was walking on up the pit lane to come up here just a moment ago, the marshals were shouting fuel. Yeah. I didn't know what it was for, but putting two and two together, potentially that is then diesel on the circuit. But of course, if it was petrol, it wouldn't be so much of an issue because
it'd evaporate.
Yeah, it would be gone by now. But diesel is a little bit more, a little bit less.
It's a tricky old thing, isn't it, diesel?
What's the word? There's begins with a V.
Viscous.
No. Anyway, I'll think about it later. Yep. But the petrol would evaporate.
Answers on a postcard, please.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a word that I can think of. But anyway, I'm looking forward to another great Focus Cup race we saw, of course, earlier on. I'm sure you've been talking about how good it was earlier on, and I'm looking forward to more of the same close racing throughout the field once we get this spillage sorted, I suppose. Anyway, looking at the grid, the cars are going to be toasty. Is it still... As much as the air temperature is dropping and the wind is picking up a little bit, the sun is beating down. It's turned into a beautiful, beautiful evening here, late April. Any of you are watching this stream now and thinking, what shall I do tomorrow? I haven't got any plans, then definitely consider coming down to Brands Hatch. Tickets for the day, of course, are very reasonably priced, and you get pretty much full access to all around the circuit, back at the pits as well if you want. The GT Cup, of course, is the main or the headline of this race weekend, and you can have a look at those cars close up and have a go in the grandstands. And basically, Brands Hatch is, I can't think of a better circuit to watch any racing at than Brands Hatch. Go to, for example, Paddock Hill Bend, you can see pretty much the whole Indy loop, and then obviously have the stream on your phone so you can see the rest of and see our coverage as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love Brands Hatch. I'm fortunate to spend a lot of time down here, and a mixture of some of the events on the Indy circuit, some of the events on the Grand Prix circuit, but it's not exactly on my doorstep, subject to what it's like coming over the bridge or through the tunnel. It's a good, at best, 2.5 hour drive home. If not, M25 being what the M25 is, it can be a 3.5, 4 hour drive home. But it's always nice to come. There are some circuits that are special, aren't they? And you alluded to it in one of the support races earlier on today. And this is a world famous circuit. It's an iconic circuit. And as I said, it's you look back at the history. This started out as really just a dirt track. The Indy circuit was a dirt track, and they ran the opposite way round in the very early stages of Brands Hatch. The Indy circuit, they ran the other way round.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and then they tarmacked it and started to run the correct way round. Then they put on the Grand Prix loop, and it's hosted everything over the years, whether it be British Superbikes, World Superbikes. Formula One, of course, the site of Nigel Mansell's 1985 first ever British Grand Prix win. DTM, you name it. It's got so many elements of history over the years. The old Brands Hatch 1,000 kilometre races for sports cars back in the day. It
still sees international series such as you mentioned DTM until recently, the GT World Challenge or GT Challenge or Fanatec GT Challenge. I can't remember the current.
Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe powered by AWS.
There you go, and that's why you paid the big bucks, Mark, because you've got all that in your encyclopedic brain, and there's me going, it's GT Challenge or something. But no, it's a great
I'm gearing up for it because it's here in 2 weeks' time.
Oh, of course it is. And but no, I think it shows how much people love it, and it's a bit of a weird one for me. But on the sim, in iRacing, for example, I race a lot. Whenever Brands Hatch is on that week, you get good participation. People love being part of it and driving the circuit because it is such a driver's circuit. It really is. We hear from many of the drivers, they love Brands GP. It can be daunting at times if you haven't had much running, but Brands GP, it's just something a bit special about it. And these drivers are lucky enough to race it in this very affordable championship. There's not many. I don't think you could actually probably race a weekend at the Brands GP circuit potentially for less money.
No, I think you're right. Yeah, of all the championships that come to Brands Hatch and get the opportunity to race on the Grand Prix circuit, and there aren't that many because of so many limited days that they can run on the full configuration. They're very limited, so not that many days are left over for club racing, which is what the Focus Cup is at the end of the day. Then yeah, you are very lucky to get out on the Grand Prix circuit on the whole, and yet for the Focus Cup, they're very lucky to be able to join it, and it's a cheap championship, as you say. That's quite a lot of diesel, isn't it?
I was going to say, you can't build a sandcastle there, sir. But that's of course soaking up all of the diesel, because again, diesel isn't oil, so it'll be. Yeah, you definitely can't make a sand. Well, you could make a very oily sandcastle out of that, but that's clearly quite a lot of diesel went down, because otherwise they wouldn't be using that much.
Yeah, whether it's thrown a pipe off the pump or something like that, and it's just kept pumping it all out. But clearly that was spotted by the marshals, and they'd have instantly tried to get Nicole off the grid. But
the marshals are, of course, duly prepared. They know exactly what to do. They had all the equipment right to hand. Unfortunately, with this sort of thing, you do have to give it a couple of minutes just to kind of soak up, really. So we are at the mercy of effectively physics right now while they absorb the oil. Then they'll sweep it up, send us round, and it will be a bit dusty for the first few laps. But especially in that position, it's not going to cause any danger, really.
So if you're if you were the driver on this grid, I know you don't know these cars, but just on a generic basis, you've had oil put down around the circuit on your race, or in this situation, you then get another formation lap. Do you, as a racing driver, go on to that on the formation lap when it's been treated by the cement dust or whatever, to see how the car reacts, or do you try and stay off it because you don't want to be on that line at all?
Oh, 100% you go on it. Or I would anyway. I don't know. I'm sure other drivers probably give different thoughts on it, but you draw, it's better the devil you know. You'd rather go on and go, that's pretty slippy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or in the other case, you go, oh, actually, that's pretty grippy. I can use it. Doesn't matter. It's just a bit of a visual thing. But the more difficult thing is sometimes you get thrust out, and sometimes there's a bit you haven't used before, and then you get on it, and you kind of, as you go onto it, you're like, am I going to slip off here? Am I going to literally end up in the barrier, or is it going to be really grippy? Because it is, sometimes it's a bit 50-50, because sometimes the sand and cement dust that they put down, I don't know exactly the combination. I think it is sand and cement dust.
It varies, as I mentioned earlier on before you joined me in comedy. It varies from circuit to circuit, surface from surface. It tends not to be cement dust, just in case then you get liquid, or it rains later on in the day, and then you get cement. And then you get cement set into the circuit.
Yeah, but anyway, whatever they put down on it, sometimes it soaks it up really well, and then when you go over it, as soon as that dust is gone, it's pretty much like a normal race circuit. And other times, for example, the actual sand itself can be slippy. You can then pick up on your tyres to the next corner, you lose a bit of grip, and all these fine margins. We've spoken about Brands GP. The easiest way to defend is just not make a mistake, and if you pick up a bit of dust on your tyres or a bit of dirt, then that can cause you to make a mistake. So these drivers, I imagine, on the left-hand side of the grid, the outside, so 2nd, 4th, 6th, 8th onwards, they will be trying to make sure that they have not got their inside wheels on that.
Yeah, they'll try and straddle it.
Yeah, they'll try and straddle it, or just be to the left of it as much as they can be while being inside their grid box.
The difficult thing, I would say, the person that's probably got the hardest job here is going to be Ian Mitchell, who's 4th on the grid, because whilst he'll straddle it from his grid position, he will still be accelerating hard at the point that he goes over where that was, and that might just cause potentially him to, through the second phase, hit the wider part of the diesel where it's spread. Those further back are going to have more momentum, and they're going to be higher up in the torque band at that time, aren't they?
But also, you think about it, these are diesel-powered cars. They've got a lot of torque. They can pull pretty much from, that's part of a diesel. They can pull pretty much from almost idle. So he'll have to be very, very careful as he crosses that line, because the car will want to slide down the slope. Of course, the Brands Hatch start-finish straight, if you're, as a driver, slopes from left to right quite aggressively. It's not an insignificant slope. I know I was just out on the grid a few moments ago and kind of reminded myself of it for the GT Cup race and the grid walk, and it's definitely leans to the inside, which means in the races, when it's wet, sometimes you get a bit of pooling on the inside, or we get rivers running across. But in a situation like this, when you start the race and you get wheel spin, it kind of slides down the circuit, because as soon as you break traction, the car wants to follow gravity, and that will put them onto that diesel line, and it could potentially lose them a position or two at the start, which is then very hard to gain back during the race.
Yeah, we see so many drivers do that. They just angle it downwards and try and get the better start when you're on that other side of the circuit. Difficult to do if you're on pole, to try and angle it downwards, because you just slide down towards the pit wall anyway.
Yeah, you don't want to get on that grass, because also, much like the outside of a corner, the inside of that section with the sort of the 2 feet of grass you've got up by the pit wall is pretty much full of marbles, rubber dust, brake dust, general circuit guff, that gets on your tyres. And it looks like, we are now away for the green flag lap, so we're going to have some racing imminently. The drivers, you can see them, a few of them already driving over that diesel line there with the sand to see what it feels like. And yeah, that won't be. I don't think that will be a big factor in the race once we get going off the line.
No. So this race should have been underway at 4:45. It is now just gone 5 o'clock, and we've still got a couple of other support races to the Focus Cup to try and squeeze in here as well. So it wouldn't surprise me if the checkered flag came out just maybe a minute or two early, because that way, yes, it squeezes this race a bit. We're going to have to squeeze the next race and the next race as well to try and allow all of the championships that are here to have track time here this afternoon. So it's going to be tight now. We haven't got much room for play, because we were scheduled to finish 5 minutes before the curfew, which means all of the cars have to be off the circuit back in the paddock for 6:30.
Yes.
Last checkered flag was scheduled for 25 past.
Yeah, so they're going to have to, as you say, we'll see. Of course, it's not our decision off in the
No, absolutely.
We're nowhere near important enough to make decisions like that here, Mark. So they'll be making sure that each
not
of the
on my pay grade.
yeah, definitely. Each of the individual races get as much track time, a fair amount of track time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What we don't want to do is let everything run to timetable, and the last race doesn't happen. So that would be such a shame for whoever's last on the timetable. But yeah, as you say, we will talk about what we can see, and if we get caught out because the checkered flag comes out a little bit earlier than the clock says, then we apologise in advance.
Just remember that we're the ones that are making the decisions, because no one would trust us with that decision anyway.
No, I wouldn't want it.
I wouldn't trust me.
Yes. You're still writing with a pencil, I know. You're not quite got to biros.
No,
can't be trusted with those.
Mrs. Smith never gave me that.
The round-ended scissors still at home, is it for you? Yeah, no, I guessed, to be honest.
We actually have plastic cups at home because I smash glasses.
You're off the Tommy Teepee one now, are you?
Yeah, I graduated in winter.
Anyway, back to racing. So that's the car. I would say watch out for that car, number 777, because Sean Reynolds, arguably, one of the quicker drivers in the championship. He qualified, it was 6th quickest this morning, but at Donington Park he did take a race win. He took a race win in the first of the 2 races there. You can see that weaving down there, so you can see that Nicole Drought was still weaving at that point to try and get some temperature into the tyres. That's why the cement line's like a snake down there. But yeah, Sean Reynolds had an off and into the gravel trap, which caused his retirement in race number 1. Should pick his way through, I would have thought, in this race. Yeah,
showed great pace, of course, in practice and qualifying, and unfortunately with that incident in race number 1 meant that he didn't fulfil his potential, but I'm sure in this race he'll be looking to make amends for that. You can see, as you mentioned, you just pointed out to me on the screen there, Mark, the left-hand side is the red and yellow striped flag, or pretty much all around the circuit, to let the drivers know that it is still slippery in places. That flag denotes basically a change or a lack of a change to the surface, so whether that's debris or oil or water or whatever, basically let the drivers know that something might be different to what they expect on the circuit, to give them a chance to at least preempt it. But I think they all you can see it's pretty well denoted by that white line hanging driving around all the way around the circuit.
Yep, so you can see a lot of the drivers try to stay off it. They'll try and peel towards their grid line as late as possible and make sure that they try and straddle it, whereas Ian Mitchell has decided to go to the left of it, and I think the rest are, rather than try and straddle it, let's just go to the left of it and leave more of a space. Now, where has the car gone that should have been on the 3rd row of the grid? Where is Lewis Clark? He's missing.
Yeah, no, he is missing. I was thinking someone stopped a row back further than they should have done.
I think he stopped a row back further than he should. No, he's there. But he's just dropped a row further back than he should.
That means everyone else on the inside row has stopped too far back as well.
There we go. We're off anyway, so let's get the race underway. Simon Watts with not a bad start whatsoever. It's not a bad start from Ian Mitchell, who's drawing himself alongside Simon War's car and should have his nose ahead when they get towards Paddock Hill Bend. But Simon War in the green machine has got the inside line, but sweeping all the way around the outside goes Ian Mitchell to pick up 2nd position. So it's Simon Watts that leads, Ian Mitchell 2nd, Simon War in 3rd, and in 4th place that is Lewis Clark, all the way around the outside trying to pick up places.
Yeah, Lewis Clark with an excellent move. He made up at least 2 places by the apex. Whether he'd lost any on the exit, I think remains to be seen, as we can now cut back to leader. So he's made 3 places at the outside mark.
Yeah, he's up into 3rd position. 4th place is John Baker, who was the race 1 winner at the wheel of the blue car. As for 777 Sean Reynolds off the tail end of the field, he has already picked up, I would say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 places as he goes in towards Stirling's that time through. So it's not been a bad first few corners for the number 777 car, the one that I suggested before the race got underway to watch out for. But the race leaders started to propel themselves downhill. Top 3 have broken away, as leading the way is Simon Watt. Weaving around behind him is Ian Mitchell. Not that far away is Lewis Clark, who finished second in the race earlier.
Yeah, we saw many drivers going side by side on the first lap, and we're having that trend continue in race number 2. Even throughout the field, you see a bit of almost looks like fog or smoke out there, but that's just that sand or cement or whatever it is that's just being flicked up with the cars driving through. Is really now going side by side into Sheen, which is not normally a thing you want to be doing. It's clearly not too much, it's clearly not too slippery on that was previously oiled line, because everyone's using it and no one's fired off quite yet. But Clark again, that was Clark, isn't it?
It is,
He's
yeah.
going around the outside once again, but this time in Sterling's, which is again going around the outside there. Not normally a manoeuvre that works, but it's clearly worked for him, as he now is on the inside for the final corner.
Yeah, prized the door open, didn't he, there on Ian Mitchell? But good driving by both, giving each other just about enough room, but he's finally done it. And then Ian Mitchell runs very, very wide, coming out of Clark Curve. And is he going to be able to hang on to it? No, he's got Jonathan Baker now drawing himself alongside, and John's got the inside line. And then Simon Waugh might also try and outbreak up the inside, heading in towards Paddock Hill Bend. Ian Mitchell braves it out around the outside and just keeps his nose ahead of Simon Waugh. But yeah, a couple of places lost there for Ian Mitchell. One as a result of the move for Lewis Clark, and the other one because he just seemed to run really, really wide coming around through Clark Curve.
Yeah, good driving from Simon Waugh actually, because he, I think he could have just left his nose and lingered there, and that could have been contact, but he backed out just at the right moment. Because a touch on the rear quarter of a front-wheel drive car such as this at the middle of Paddock Hill Bend is a recipe for disaster, because once the rear goes in these front-wheel drive cars, the rear is so light, that's it. Everyone continuing on. Looks like it's still very close up at the front.
Yeah, our race leader, Simon Watts, looks as though he's just got a little bit of a breakaway, albeit just for the moment, because the fact that they're all busy squabbling behind now at the moment. Lewis Clark in second place, race 1 winner Jonathan Mitchell there in third place. Jonathan Baker there in third place. Ian Mitchell trying to fight back in fourth position. Simon Waugh's not too far away in fifth, and it's going to be Gary Mitchell of the Mitchell brothers, who is there completing the top 6 at the moment.
And there we go, 2 wheels on the grass, now trying to force a move up the inside for the lead. Not quite getting it done this time. Just shutting the door enough there to deter the aggressing driver.
Yeah, so is he going to have another little nibble here? No, by the look of it, a little bit back to being nose to tail. As they turn their way out of the corner, you can see the small little puff of black smoke, the diesel particulate, as the cars just work their way up towards the conclusion of lap number 2 this time through. Simon Watts, who had got a little bit of a breakaway, all of a sudden they've all managed to catch him up a little bit more now. There's the black car with its day-glow flashes in the hands of Gary Mitchell, who wants to join in the fun. He's just a little bit off the pack ahead at the moment, so over the start-finish line they'll come. Brilliant racing as ever, as Ian Mitchell comes under pressure from Simon Waugh. This will be for 4th and 5th position, but nope, they go back to being nose to tail as they turn their way through Paddock Hill Bend and start to work their way uphill into the braking area for Druids. It's amazing how late you can brake at this corner, because you're going uphill, aren't you?
Not quite that late though. There's a car around the outside. Yeah, because it's Cutfield, you really can slam on the anchors and it stops a lot quicker than you initially think when you first drive the car. But if you do brake too late, then there's a bit of road there to help you out, as we just saw from the blue car. I didn't quite catch the number.
John Mitchell, yeah, that's John Mitchell, number 10 car, yeah. Yes, just braked it that little bit too late, but gathered up the moment and didn't lose a place at all. So, yeah, any one of 5, you could argue 6 now for the lead. Doesn't quite join yet. Gary Mitchell hasn't quite joined in on the fun as yet. He's just that little bit further adrift, and he's trying to bring with him as well the next of the cars as well, which is going to be Greg Saunders at the wheel of the number 34 car with its black and its white and its orange livery. So they start to descend downhill towards Hawthorne. 5 minutes of the scheduled race still remain at this stage, and as they start to head round through the corner, have we already had a bit of time taken out, because they're only on their 3rd lap and they're showing 5 minutes left?
Yes, we're clearly worried about the end of the day, so it's a fairly short and sprint reverse grid race, and this is the reverse grid race, right?
It is, yeah.
I thought it was, so I just panicked for a second that it wasn't, but it's not long to resolve any manoeuvres that need doing, as it's the gap for the top, top 6 are still within about 2.5 seconds. Oh no, we've missed the start of that, but there's clearly a coming together there. That was for, 5th and 6th place?
Yeah, that's Lewis Clark and Ian Mitchell that's off. Lewis Clark is leaving with damage. Ian Mitchell's car is stranded towards the edge of the ground. It looks like it's on the grass there, so as long as you can get it fired up, he can get it out of harm's way, but it's absolutely in the firing line, I'm afraid, there. Now, that's the car I said to watch out for. You know, I said watch out for 777 Sean Reynolds. He was up to 8th at the start of the lap, but now we've had the Schmozzle there at the exit of Sheen Curve. That's going to promote the number 777 car further up through the order. It's now Simon Waugh that leads the race from Gary Mitchell in 2nd place. Greg Saunders is 3rd, and Sean Reynolds is up into 4th off the back of the grid.
Wow, he's done well to capitalise on that. We didn't see the start of what happened there, but it was potentially coming together side by side into Sheen Corner, which is tightens up the exit. Oh, there's the rest of them. Yep. We didn't even see that.
No, didn't even see that as well. So that's Simon Watts and John Baker.
So that's all 4 of them.
All 4 of them.
2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, wasn't it?
They've all gone off. Yeah, now they've already been round through that corner a few times. It can't be the diesel. It must have just been they all wanted the same piece of tarmac.
There must have been 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, because some Waugh was in 5th place.
Yeah, and the safety car is not surprisingly coming out onto circuit, but we've only got 3 minutes remaining. So
I fear that maybe with 4 cars on circuit, I fear that may be the race. So a dramatic end. Would that put it back a lap though? Have they?
No, because it's a safety car. If they don't go red.
Oh, of course they haven't gone red yet. No, you're completely right.
Yeah, it's just safety car. So
yes, because otherwise those cars might have got away with that scot-free.
The problem is if you're not running when a red flag comes out, you're not classified anyway. So even if you go back a lap, they weren't running.
Oh, of course, I forget that. That's
it's all very technical, isn't it? All very technical. So at the moment, Simon Waugh, who started in 3rd position, is leading the pack. Gary Mitchell, who started in 10th position, is running in 2nd place. Wow. And Sean Reynolds, is he the next one in the queue? Yes, he is, who just before the safety car came out, who started 15th, is going to complete the podium.
There you go, up 11 places in a grid of 15 cars. It's pretty good going, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, somewhat helped by the fact that 4 of them decided that they were going to have issues.
He doesn't have to tell anyone that.
Whatever happened, but you'd take it, wouldn't you? Yeah,
absolutely.
You'd take
but
it.
I really do wonder. It must have been a similar thing that we saw on lap 1, where sort of it was almost 2 by 2 through that corner, and then one person dinged into another, which dinged into another potentially.
And chain reaction.
Yeah, those. Can you see any damage on those? It doesn't look like that's a huge amount of damage.
No, not
that number 10 of Baker looks like it must have hit something to be at that angle and not carry on.
Yeah.
But it looked from this angle like the damage wasn't huge. Hopefully, there's not too much damage. You can see there is definitely damage on the 17 of. Who's the 17?
That's Lewis Clark.
He was, so he may. Oh, wait, it was in his right front.
He was in that pack. Yeah, it's all right front for him, isn't it?
So potentially, where was he in the group? It was 1st, 2nd, 3rd.
He was running in 2nd place.
Yes.
Checkered flag is coming out as well, just to confirm that, you know, with 1 minute and 40 seconds to go on the clock, the incident's still to clear up. Safety car out there. If the safety car did 1 lap, we'd run out of time. So it looks as though that is also the checkered flag, unfortunately, which is such a shame, really. You know, with the incident that was a mechanical issue, delaying the start and reducing the amount of time available, and then we have 4 cars that come together and 3 of them stranded in what is a very dangerous position. Such a shame that we didn't really get the racing in that we wanted. But that man there will be happy, won't he? Car number 22, Simon Waugh. Here's a winner.
The winner. He was, to be fair to him, he drove very well. He was right where he needed to be, right place, right time. And sometimes that's all you can do. You had the pace to stick with the front group and then clearly dodge the drama that happened up ahead through Sheen. No, Sterling. Sterling, yes.
Sheen Curve towards Sterling. Yeah, Sheen Curve
towards Sterling, and he dodged the drama, and has come away with a race win. As you mentioned, some impressive drives as well, with a lot of drivers making up a lot of positions, not only with that melee, but also on circuit too.
Well, I'm just looking through all of the race results since Focus Cup first appeared in 2019, and Simon Waugh has been very much a regular face in the Focus Cup. But as I look through the championship points in each of the previous years, I cannot see Simon Waugh has scored 30 points at any point, which suggests, for a man who's been around it since it started, he's just scored his first win in Focus Cup.
Well, I'm sure
I'll stand to be corrected if that's not the case.
I'm sure he'll be absolutely over the moon with that.
Okay, we should be able to bring you some, what of course will be very provisional results following that race, but this is what we'll give you anyway. Simon Waugh comes through to grab the win on the road, with Gary Mitchell in 2nd place and Sean Reynolds was 3rd. 4th was the car number 34 of Greg Saunders, and 5th, despite the damage, was Lewis Clark, with completing the top 6 Mark McCann in 7th place. That's the number 82 car that finished in 7th position, which was Rob Stark. 8th place was the number 13 car. Had a good run in race number 1, Luke Scrubby, but didn't really get the chance in race number 2. And then the next of the cars is going to be Ian Graham, and completing the top 10 is Simon Walton. And then outside of the top 10, We've got Abby Walton, followed by the number 21 car, which is the car of Sarah Hall, and then all the rest of those cars, the likes of Simon Watts and John Baker and Ian Mitchell, all tangled up in the incident that brought about the safety car and ultimately meant that we didn't quite get the number of racing laps in that we needed. So that's it from the Focus Cup here at Brands Hatch. Apologies, that race didn't quite go to plan, but we look forward to catching up with them again, whether it be at Snetterton in June or Alton Park in July or Brands Hatch back here in September. So from everybody at Brands Hatch, the Focus Cup team, thanks for joining us. We'll see you again very soon. Goodbye.